Welcome to Mishia Madness and Motivation Podcast. This podcast is for anyone wanting to evolve in every aspect of their life. Do you want to be better and live life to your fullest potential? Tune in with your host, blogger, entrepreneur, and beauty executive, Mishia.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Today, I'm joined with Fatima Oliver, who is the author of her memoir, The Prescription is in the Dirt. And I'm so happy to have her here today on the podcast. And I'm just going to have her introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her.
Oh my. Okay. So hi everybody. I am Fatima, and a little background. I'm old. At least my kids think I am. My kids think I am. I grew up all boys in my home. I was the only girl out of 5 boys, and then I wound up having all boys. So I have 4 boys, and then I have my husband. So it's a lot of testosterone in my home. Don't feel bad for me because I'm definitely a queen, so don't feel bad. But no, seriously, growing up in that type of environment, it definitely can, especially being grown up in a single parent home. I would say I grew up hard, and I had a hard childhood, just like a lot of people. And I view that in some ways as I was sheltered. When I say that, I mean I was sheltered from a lot of times affection. I was sheltered from validation. I was sheltered from security and protection. And so, I was depraved from a lot of those things that anybody would naturally think a child would need to have a healthy upbringing. That definitely helped me to make some horrible decisions growing up as a young adult, and honestly, way past then, all the way up into my 40s, just still making pretty, just crazy type of decisions and having some negative behavior habits that I just really needed to figure out how to break. And I'm grateful for where I've come, but unfortunately, I have a lot of battle wounds to look back on. I'm grateful to be in this position that I am in right now, emotionally, spiritually, even physically, and to have been able to get to a place where I'm able to honestly sit in this space and talk about it, and have even written a book about a lot of those journeys, a lot of those mistakes, a lot of those crazy decisions that I was able to babysit my way out of.
I don't even know where to start. Are you comfortable sharing just a few of what you had, a few experiences that you've had to endure?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would start off with saying it was a single parent home. My mom did the best that she knew how to do. I do believe she parented out of brokenness, which unfortunately a lot of us fall prey to. I think it's a trap by the enemy, but a lot of us fall into that because we live frustrated as a single parent. Totally, I've been there. And we make decisions in that state of frustration. So when our kids are just being kids, knuckleheads, and getting into stuff and just doing what children will do, we discipline from that frustrated place. And so a lot of times it's displaced anger. And so I grew up in that type of an environment. Growing up with, I really think, additionally, with just being the only girl in the home, I think my husband said something profound that I'm trying to not be this way, but that we love our sons and we raise our girls. And so I feel like I kind of fell into that mode of making sure, my mom trying to make sure that I was able to kind of survive on my own in case I was also a single mom. Of course, that's not what she wanted, but just in case. And so it was a very a stringent environment where there was no room for no emotions. Shut it up, what you crying for, toughing it out. And even my brothers making it a game to be able to make me cry. So I really had to learn early on to be tough, to not show how I felt, whether I was scared, whether I was angry, whether I was sad, to never show it. And almost like at the age of 5, I was learning how to have a survival instinct, but not learning how to deal with those emotional feelings that came from whatever the situations were. And some of those situations was me being physically abused, me and my older brother being physically abused by one of my stepfathers, where example would be him tying us up to a chair and just whooping us whenever he wanted to. He was he's one of those people where he was a good guy who had horrible habits, especially when he got intoxicated. And so that's one of the things he did. And unfortunately, my mom couldn't step in. I don't think she felt that she had the strength to, because she was getting beat also. So growing up in that type of an atmosphere as a kid, 4 years old, I learned early how to resist conflict, how to avoid conflict, how to bow out and just agree in order to alleviate any type of stress in the home. And that's a form of codependency. I didn't know that, of course. So I grew up, learned that behavior, that habit of just trying to survive. That was my survival tactic, but that brought me into my adulthood, where I was afraid to have difficult conversations with other grown-ups. And so I would live in a situation or deal with circumstances just so that the situation could be resolved. Not because I was getting what I wanted, but because I just wanted it to go away. And so that's one of the situations that I think that I really, really, and to this day, I still challenge being able to be confident in my word and stand up for what I believe in.
Yeah. I can definitely relate to that. I grew up in a household, I was not abused, but my sibling was abused. So just to see some of those things, that's why I can relate to everything you just said of how it affects you. How did you see those effects in your personal relationships with friends and
Well, I definitely, for one, I closed myself off. So just living in that atmosphere, my safest refuge was internal. So I internalized a lot of things. Even as an adult, I didn't even realize till maybe like 3 years ago that I talked to myself a lot. And it was because that was another coping mechanism. So I found comfort in reasoning with myself. I was a very, very quiet child. And it wasn't because I didn't have a lot to say or had a lot that I was thinking about. It's just I had never learned that it was okay to speak up. So I internalized a lot. And that type of, it's not meekness, it's timidness, that type of timidness in a relationship, a dating relationship, is gold for somebody who's looking for somebody to be submissive, or I shouldn't even really use the word submissive, but somebody that they can control. Because submissiveness is something that's a conscious effort, and it's almost like power under control. But this would be a male trying to dominate me, basically. And in my dating, which I barely dated, but the dating that I did do, I didn't see a problem with being so quiet. I didn't see a problem with going along with the scenario, regardless of how I felt about it, because that was my natural behavior. But for me, my spirituality is I'm a Christian, and I strongly believe that as God began to work on me, and meaning as I began to learn more about Christ and learn more about liberation and how his word literally can set you free, I started feeling more bold about voicing what was in my head. And then that's when it got all crazy, because nobody, not my family, not my brothers, not my mother, nobody, and not my boyfriend who would later become my husband. Nobody was used to Fatima talking up. So it was like, who is this? Who is this girl? We got to put her back in the bottle. And so that definitely brought a lot of tumultuousness within my family, because not all the time, even though change can be liberating and change can be good for you, it requires everybody around you to adjust to that change too. And those people that were closest around me did not want to change, did not want to conform to my change. And so it brought a lot of tumultuousness. When I say that, I mean abuse, the same abuse that I saw my mom going through, I wound up experiencing at the hands of my husband, who at the time was my boyfriend. But as soon as we got married, it became a very physically abusive relationship.
I'm sorry you had to experience that.
Yeah, life happens. I say it, I guess, casual now, and that's just because I've had processing time. But I definitely believe that it's allowed me to be able to sit here and talk with you. So hey,
smile. So your husband, your now husband, how did you meet him?
My boo, you mean my
boo thing,
my baby daddy?
Yes.
Oh shoot! Well, we don't have time for all of that, but I would have to come on another time, Mishia. But my husband, when I can say that when he did come into my life, I was definitely I was surviving, but I was emotionally, mentally a mess. I really was, and I didn't realize how just broken I was until I was out of a situation where it was apparent the other person was wrong. So everybody can say a person dragging you all around the house, throwing you around, body slamming you, hitting you in your head, and all this type of stuff. That clearly that is not right. Okay, so it's easy to see that big stuff.
But when you're in the midst of it.
Right, when you're in the midst of it, and when by all accounts that's huge, right? But once you come out of it and you realize that that factor is no longer there, it's easy for you to see, not necessarily that you provoked anybody, but it takes two people to be in a relationship. So what made me gravitate to this person? And what were some things? Was there anything that he was saying that was I hate to say it, but was it a little true? And so for me, that's when I started being able to say, well, Fatima, maybe you are a little needy. Like, what is up with that? Why are you so insecure? I may have had justification, but it made me have to peel back those layers like an onion. And just like an onion, sometimes you cry. It was a lot of tears a part of that. But I had to peel back those layers of why I act, why I have certain behavior. Why am I so insecure? Why am I all up on this man who is completely different than my ex-husband? Why do I feel like I have to check everything that he says? Or why do I believe that when he comes and he says he wants to get to know me, why do I feel like there's got to be a catch? Because there's no way he could be into me. So those type of questions that I would naturally have in my subconscious, I had to start to look at that, because after so long, he was like, you look good and everything, but you crazy.
Oh, that's so funny. Was being a Christian or going to church a part of your childhood?
So, wow. So, sorry, that's a lovely question. Okay. So, so actually, no, don't apologize. So actually, I put this in my book. I start out actually in my book explaining a little bit about my background, and my background is actually generationally. My family is a Buddhist, and so it's considered Nichiren Daishonin Buddhism. It's considered true Buddhism. The Buddhism that if you ever saw What's Love Got to Do with It, the Tina Turner story, and she's chanting in front of the Gohanzan, that's what my family did. So my grandmother was a Buddhist, my uncle was my mom, my entire family. And so since I can remember, I was a Buddhist. And at 19, is when I just started questioning my spirituality and the path that I wanted to take for myself. And I'm a very analytical person by nature. It annoys me sometimes. In this case, my analytical side just stepped in, and it just overrided my faith or the things that I thought I believed in, what I traditionally grew up in. It just kind of overrode that logic for me. And it opened up the door for me to start looking into Christianity. And I will say that my ex-husband, he's actually the one that introduced me to Christianity. And so his family were Christians. And I would say that God used that relationship to actually bring me to him. And so although that relationship completely went completely the opposite of what I thought it would, it definitely brought me to Christ, and it definitely was the center of any type of strength or endurance or hope and faith that I had when I was going through those life events, and when I got the courage to leave, when I got the courage to pack my stuff and actually leave with my son. It took everything. It absolutely took faith and my strength in believing that God wouldn't want me to live this way, and I don't care what people have told me. This is not of God, and I am His child, and I deserve more. It took that belief to be able to get me to pack my stuff and leave and go sleep on my cousin's couch.
The day that you did pack your stuff and leave, what was your thought process? Were you not planning to leave, or did you have it already set that this was the day?
Well, I had always, about 2 months prior, we had decided, or I had decided that I was done with the relationship, but I didn't have, I'll just say it, a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. So I was stuck there for a minute. But over time, I was able to decide that in about 2 months, I was going to leave. And so that was just a pivotal moment that occurred in the relationship where it was just another hostile day where I was being dragged around, that I had decided I needed to leave at that time. And so I made a decision that basically when he leaves for work, I'm going to go ahead and pack my things and I'm going to leave. And I had no place to call my own. All I had was a little Honda. I packed everything that I could fit into that Honda, and I drove it to my cousin's house, and me and my son slept on her couch. And for me, that was one of the most loneliest times in my life. I even at one point felt betrayed by God because I didn't understand how I could be faithful, as you can say, a faithful Christian, a committed Christian, committed to my marriage, never stepped out, committed to God, worshiping in the choir, just intercessory prayer on the usher board, just doing everything that I could. And praying for God to heal my marriage, and it winds up falling apart. And I just couldn't understand that. Why was that allowed to happen? And I really had a black and white, I think, idea about life at that time. I really thought if I do these things, then this should be the outcome. And that's not life. And I think if anything, that was a really great wake-up call for me to see that life just don't work that way. And I don't think I would have ever seen the areas that I needed to grow in, honestly, if I would have remained in that relationship, because I always would have looked at it as he's just crazy and it's all him. And I'm a victim, and I continue to be a victim. I never would have gotten to a place where I would say, Fatima, somewhere in my life, stop and say, Fatima, stop being a victim. Stop victimizing yourself and learn to get some legs up under you and stand up and walk. I don't think I ever would have gotten that, the kahunas or whatever, I just don't think I ever would have gotten that. And that is a life lesson that will take you so far, but you got to learn it. And unfortunately, I had to learn it going through that horrible situation.
So how old are your children?
Oh, okay. So, so I have, sometimes I got to close my eyes because, it's a lot of kids. I may as well say, a 21-year-old. Oh my God, are you 21? Lord, now I really feel old. So I have a 21-year-old. I have a 14-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 7-year-old.
Oh,
ain't no all. That's too many kids.
No. Oh, that's so funny. My family laughs at me because sometimes I don't have any children yet, if I'm able to have children, but I'm always like, yeah, I want like 8 kids. And
oh my God, no, you don't.
Now. Like, just have one, you'll change your mind.
Yeah. Now, I say my last one. If I would have had the pregnancy or the labor, I should say, like I did with him, he would have been, if he would have been my first child, I wouldn't have no more kids. Oh. He was, so my third one, I call him my finale baby, because we really thought, oh my God, it's an oops, but we left him anyway. Mm-hmm. And, my husband had a bit of a midlife crisis, and I was like, come on back, because you was a part of this. But my last baby, my baby, I call him my encore baby, because he really was an encore. I mean, he really, oh my God, yeah. when I was done with that, I was like, oh no, we're not having no more.
Swinging.
Oh my God. Through every part of me. He's my passion baby.
Oh, how is he now well, he's not a toddler, but I just want to call him a toddler.
He's 7 and he has the principled side of me. He has that side of me that thought life was black and white. He definitely has that side of me. I see it in him through and through. And I really am already working on him, trying to teach him that life is not fair. Learn it now. Life is not fair. And just learning to, you can still have your belief. You don't have to waver in your belief, but you do have to understand that there are other people that believe different and that you are not their judge, because he is very judgmental and very like, right is right, wrong is wrong. If you do not apologize, you are wrong. And he will carry that. And I look at that as like a form of, I call it, I used to say righteous, but I really think it's self-righteous anger. Like, how dare you do that to me? And I was that way for so long when somebody would do wrong by me, because by nature, I really tried to be such a, just such a compassionate, loving person. I still work to be that way. So when people would do wrong by me, I just felt, how dare you do that? Forget it, God. I got this. I'm going to take care of them. How dare you? And I honestly, it's like, you should never stop learning. And I will be 46 next week. And I'm still learning that I can't be that way. And that it is not my job to fix people. It is not my job to correct people. If anything, it's my job to forgive, which can be the hardest thing to do. And I'm learning that, and that's one of the key things that I talk about throughout my book is that the fact of how healing forgiveness has been for me, how being able to forgive situations that a lot of people would deem unforgivable has really helped free me. And it sounds so Pollyanna-ish when you say it. It sounds so Oprah
it's
and
so
like,
true.
But it is so true.
Forgiveness is more for you than the other person.
Yes, sure. Absolutely. But it's like when you're angry, you don't want to hear that. Like, you don't want to hear that.
Okay. Going back to when you said, how you were questioning God at one point, you were like, I've been doing my part. Why is everything falling apart around me?
Yeah.
At what point did that switch in your mind said, okay, God, I see what you're doing here?
I didn't see it. I didn't see it. So I didn't see that until, I would say.
Were you taking any extra steps? Did you go to therapy?
No, not at all. I sat in revenge. I sat in a state of, I want to see him pay, and he's got to pay someday. And God, I'm just waiting on you to cash that in, like my arrears and child support. That's my savings. And I know eventually I'm going to get it. And I really am waiting on that day. And I carried that all the way through, I would say even to this year, as far as not necessarily being upset with God, but being so angry at my ex-husband. And I carried that with me all the way till 2020. And I just believe that one day we would be able to have a conversation, and I would be able to confront him with all the things that he did to me. Because prior I had conversations like that, and he would say, I don't remember that. And it would drive me crazy because I knew that he hurt me so deeply. And this year, unfortunately, he wound up passing away to COVID.
Okay.
And in the midst of that moment, knowing that my son's father had passed away, I was so upset for my son, but I was so secretly angry that I never got my apology. And I had to deal with that.
Yes. And I can just say also that it does hurt when someone is dismissive. It's like, you made me feel this way, and I'm telling you that you made me feel this way. And they're like you said, oh, I don't remember.
Yeah.
It is so hard. But in a way, it's like we cannot control what other people do, only ourselves. And that's why it's so powerful to forgive, because it only hurts us to not forgive.
Yeah. And that's the part I didn't see that. So all this time, I got married the day after my 21st birthday. I was with him we were together for 14 years. I was married 12 years. And so for all that time, I have carried this anger and resentment, and I'm still waiting, God, to cash this apology in. And when he passed away, it's like in the midst of me crying, self-righteous tears and anger and sorrow, all of that mixed together, I heard God help me. I heard him say, you could have been freed from this a long time ago.
Wow.
You've been waiting on a man to vindicate your pain. You never needed him to vindicate your pain. All you needed to do was hand it over to me. And I really did, I call them come to Jesus moments. I had to have a moment and say, God, forgive me. You are so right. This has been a long time carrying this for this person to free me from something that you already gave me the steps to be freed from. And back to what you're saying, Mishia, you're absolutely right. We cannot control other people. I went through a program. It's called Celebrate Recovery. It's a program similar to Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous, but it's based on biblical principles. And I went through, it's like a 9-month program, because you go through books, like 4 books that you can go through, step study books. And in one of those books, it's an inventory that you do where you just write out everything that somebody's done to you that you still are hurt by. When you talk about it, it brings up all this emotion. You write all that stuff down, and you also write down what you've done to people too. But on the parts where you're writing all this stuff down, that was one of the things I had written down. And it asked you, what did they do? Who is this person? What did they do? How did it make you feel in the moment? How did that damage you to where you have carried it all this time to this moment? And what were you to blame? Yes or no? Were you to blame? Own it if you were. And then what would you have done differently? I could have did them steps a long time ago. I could have did that. But I was waiting on him to come to me and say, you're right, Fatima. I apologize. Something that I never got. And so it was really a reflective moment to say, when you do have those moments of I guess I would say that for me, that's a step of forgiveness, is going through that type of an inventory to get to a place where you can resolve something within yourself. But all of that was about me. It had nothing to do with the other person. So I could have done those steps and gotten my peace, gotten my freedom, and it didn't involve him. It involved the actions, but it didn't involve him telling me I set you free. And that was my huge lesson last year for sure.
And your book came out this year?
Yeah, well, technically it was last year, 2020.
2021 is so new. So, but
yes.
So it just recently come out, and
yeah.
What's the name of it for everyone listening?
Yeah, so the book came out in November actually, and it's called The Prescription is in the Dirt. And when I say the prescription, it's actually on Amazon in ebook and paperback. Gotta say that. But the name, The Prescription is in the Dirt. It encompasses, the name encompasses all that stuff that we've been talking about, especially things that we haven't forgiven, or just things that by all accounts have been done to us that have gotten us to a place where we're stuck and we don't know how to heal from it. If we're not careful, all those things can bury us and keep us in a place of resentment and bitterness and self-control and making horrible decisions and blaming everybody else because after all, we were victims, right? So that is what that dirt is. And it talks about working through that stuff, that taboo stuff that people really don't like to talk about, that you probably don't even tell your girlfriend about. Working through that stuff so that you can grow, through all of that. And so even on the cover, I have plants coming up out of the dirt, because it's just a visualization of, as you deal with that dirt, the freedom that you get to grow and be honestly what God really wants you to be.
Yes, I love that. If you want to, I would love for you to share your favorite part or just an excerpt from the book.
Yeah. Okay, so this was actually the chapter is called The Foolery. And so I'll just start, and it says, anyone could see how completely enamored I was over Alan. He was my advocate, something I had never had before. He was there for me when I was enduring the horrific situation at home with my stepfather and helped me get the money for my first apartment. I was so focused on running away from my life. I had no idea of what I was running to. In my eyes, Alan was a knight in shining armor, but public perception and truth are often two different things. No one had ever taken time with me in the way Alan had, and I was captivated. For the first time, I dreamed about having a future with someone, of having a complete life outside of the one I had been exposed to. So when he asked me to marry him on Christmas, I was elated and bursting to share the news with family and friends, anybody who would listen. It was a dream come true. And we could not get down the aisle quick enough. But that day would not come soon at all because Alan was already married. And I'm going to leave that there. You got to get the book to know what else is going on.
I'm sure they're all typing right now, like, let me push this up. I need it tonight.
I certainly appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk with you, and yeah, and I really hope that if anything comes out of it, there is three things that I always want to share with an audience that I think is really important that I had to learn, and I look at them as baby steps to healing. We all have our stuff, right? And so it may not be as crazy as the things that I've gone through. It may be even worse, but at the end of the day, we all have steps that we need to take to healing. And so one of the major things that I strongly believe that you need to have is a safe place to fall. And a lady named Carolyn Leaf, she studies the brain. She's a Christian, and she actually calls it freaking out in the love zone. Some place where you can have a snotty nose, your hair all over the place, you had on the same clothes for 3 days, and the person comes in, you ain't cleaned your house, and they come in and help you clean, right? They come in and they are your spiritual soup for the soul. Somebody that you can just be your ugliest and your rawest with, and they don't judge you. Everybody needs that space. Now, sometimes that space is not your family. Sometimes that space is a girlfriend. Sometimes that space is your spouse. Sometimes that space is the church, maybe somebody at the church, or even sometimes that place is a therapist. Sometimes you have to pay for that safe place to fall. For me, I needed all of it. I'm just telling you, I needed it all. Another thing that I learned through going through some of these events in my life was a victim mindset must change to a victor mindset. Self-victimization will get you nowhere. And it's easy to fall into that trap because by all accounts, you have been a victim. By all accounts, people have done you wrong. But there is some place in your life where you have to make a decision that what do you want your life to be? Do you want to continue to make the same decisions? And then when things turn out bad, you say, look how they did me. If you're always being done wrong, then the common denominator is you. You got to look at yourself and stop putting yourself in a position to be a victim. Lastly, I would say, Mishia, it's okay to not be okay, but it's definitely not okay to remain there. Nobody should be comfortable with just being a mess. It's a disservice to yourself. It's a disservice to who God wants you to be. And he wants to use your story. He does not waste pain. God does not waste pain. Now, I did not know that going through a lot of things, but I'm a believer that he does not waste pain, but you have to make a decision on what you're going to do with it. You have to be a participant in your healing. And so you have to make a conscious decision that, you know what, I'm jacked up. My mind is all messed up. I can't trust myself. There's a stranger in my house and it's me. And make a decision that this is not the person that I want to be. And you deserve to make these decisions. You deserve to get the healing that you need because you are worth it. And if nobody has ever told you, you're worth it. I'm telling you that you're worth it. And I know without a shadow of a doubt, trust me, if God can do it for me, I promise you, it wasn't just him dropping a miracle in my lap. I had to do some work. But if he can move through me and help me to make those decisions and give me the courage to walk in those steps, and he can bring me out on the other side, and I wrote a dang book, he can definitely do it for you.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your powerful story and being so open to talk to me about it on the podcast. And it was so nice to meet you. And I'm going to be talking to you again when I'm finished with your book to let you know that I'm done reading your book.
Please. And I'm definitely open to reviews, honest reviews. If they bad ones, keep them. But
just don't even say anything.
Don't even say nothing. Just say bless her heart. But no, please leave a review. Please encourage somebody else to be able to take the step. I view this as a seed to healing. So please encourage somebody. If you've been encouraged by the book or what is shared by anything, please leave a review so that it'll encourage somebody else to take that step. But I appreciate you and thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you so much.
Mishia Madness and Motivation Podcast was ecstatic to have you today. Until next time.